You're listening to The Real Truth About You. My name's Will Sinclair, and welcome to episode 53.
Welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to episode 53 of The Real Truth About You. Like I said, I'm Will Sinclair, and welcome to the show. This is a show where we try to help you to become the most amazing you by discovering the true you and getting the inside all aligned and all correct. Because when you get the inside right, when you discover the beauty of you inside, then all the external things take care of themselves. All your life outside takes care of itself. Don't forget to visit our website, therealtruthaboutyou.com. Well, I gotta say, if you're following me regularly, you're starting to notice that I'm not always getting my podcast out on a Wednesday like I usually do. Today's actually a Friday morning, and it's a beautiful Friday morning at the end of April 2017. And the sun is shining out where I live, out at Kenosha Lake, Saskatchewan, Canada. And Saskatchewan's the province I live in. The sun is just shining down beautifully. I live right beside a lake, and the lake is really calm. There's no wind today. And it's funny because a week ago I was in my kayak. We were just experiencing the thawing process, I guess. All the snow is finally gone. Spring has probably happened where you've been, and where you are, I mean. Or maybe it's not yet, depending on where you live. And anyway, I was out in my kayak, and it was just gorgeous. And this was probably about a week ago, so closer towards the middle of April. And then a matter of 2 or 3 days later, I'm out on the highway driving, and it's like blizzarding snow and ice. It's just unbelievable. They say only in Saskatchewan, only in Canada. Well, I used to say that when I lived in the UK also. That seems like UK was the only place you could have snow, wind, rain, and sunshine all at the same time. Seemed that way anyway. And Canada seems the same. Maybe it's the same everywhere, I don't know. But if you're in a hot, sunny place, wow, awesome, good for you. Envy you sometimes. But anyway, that's not what this is about. Blabber, blabber, blabber. Hey, Performance Realty is the sponsor of this show today. And thanks a lot, Ray Boutin. If you have any kind of real estate needs, if you're selling a home or you want to buy a home, especially if you want to buy a home by a lake, like where I live, it's just a beautiful area, give Performance Realty a call. Ray Boutin. Give Ray, Jody, Chad, or Tracy a call at 306-575-8575. And you can also get Ray Boutin if you search for him on realtor.ca, and that'll all be on the show notes for this episode. Thanks a lot, Ray, for helping keeping the show alive and keeping food in my stomach and my wife's stomach. I really appreciate that. Some people might say, oh, you're getting pretty commercial. Well, no, we're not really. Just need money to eat, right? So thanks anyway, Ray. I really appreciate that. My cat, I don't know if it's safe to say that I have a cat now. The story I've been telling you about the cat keeps coming back, and well, it hasn't left. It stayed here all along, and I've been going through it. We have a retreat house where we live, and we work at a camp, for a kids camp, and during the summer it's a summer kids camp, and during the year we have a retreat house that people come to every week, and so we kind of look after that. And the funny thing about this cat is it seems to know when there's people at the retreat house. It just seems to know it, and it goes there, and it's kind of like an outdoor cat but very domesticated. And it goes there and it gets all its hugs and all its things. And people just adore it to pieces. It's a male cat, and Anyway, some people call the cat Garth. Some groups and that come here regularly call I don't know why, but they call him Garth. Another group called him Sherlock, because I said, why do you call him Sherlock? He says, well, because he seems really he likes to explore and he's curious, but he's high maintenance and he loves all his cuddles and stuff, and they wanted to take him home. And I've heard him called, one time I called him Sheldon. I don't know if you're ever familiar with the North American sitcom TV show, The Big Bang Theory. And my wife was sitting in the chair that he usually sits in outside, and he was kind of pondering back and forth, just like this character Sheldon does, because somebody sits in his spot on the couch. And as soon as she got up, he jumped up on the chair, and then he was just good. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I should call you Sheldon. And I've heard him called Socks. I think his original family that we called him Socks because he's got 4 white paws and that look like socks. But 2 of them at the back his paws are really, the white is quite extended up his leg. And so I've also heard him called Boots. And this cat's got like a name for every life, each one of his 9 lives or whatever. But anyway, the other day I was sitting outside and it was really cold in the morning because it's still cold here at this time. And I was just sitting outside, and for some reason I just finished meditating, and I'd gone outside to feed the cat because he's an outdoor cat. And I was sitting and I was petting him and stuff, and I said, well, it's getting pretty cold out here, I gotta go in, Puddles. And I don't know where that name Puddles came from, and it's kind of stuck with me, and so I'm gonna call him Puddles the cat. And that's my name. There's no rhyme or reason to it other than that's just what came out. So Puddles the cat. Do I have a cat? Well, maybe. And nobody's come to pick him up yet. And I'm actually happy in a sense because this is the first time in my life. We had a little dog, but I never felt the same affection for this our dog. Not that he wasn't a great little dog, but as I have for this cat. For some reason, he was like a godsend, like maybe God sent him to this cat, because he wandered back 11 kilometers each time from his original home to our camp, to our front doorstep, through dangerous, like, bush country where there's coyotes and all kinds of animals that, let's say, like cats. And, and he still made it back here. So I'm feeling like he's a bit of a godsend, and I really appreciate him being here. I really, really, really do appreciate him being here. And I was actually sitting one day, and it was like, I was looking at him, and I was like, why are you here? Like, why'd you keep coming back here? And I don't know if it's this place or if he's drawn by God or what it is, but I just sat there one day, and I was looking at him, and I just kind of heard within me, you've never really had a pet, have you? And it was like, when this cat doesn't show up at night for its feeding, right? It could be anything. It could have been attacked. It could have been lost somewhere. It could have wandered off. Who knows? There's other cats here he doesn't get along with. There's wild cats out here, and that chase mice and squirrels and all kinds of stuff. And he's little Puddles here seems to be a little bit more domesticated. But if he doesn't show up, I miss him. I don't know why. I've never been like this before. I've never had this kind of affection for an animal, but I do for little Puddles here for some reason. And last night he didn't show up, and for his evening feed, and I was just like looking and looking and looking. I actually went searching the camp for him, and I've never ever done this. And I finally realized what people feel when they lose a pet. Sometimes they're devastated, and I just feel that emotion for this cat. And it's almost, in a way, when I look at this cat, I'm kind of reflected on how God may look at us or look at me. And like, I go outside, and sometimes he comes and gets his, like, cuddles, and by cuddles I mean petting and things like that, and scratching under his belly and stuff, and he just loves that. And other times he just eats and he's gone. He doesn't even come for anything. He just eats and he's gone. And every day I say to him, okay, go and be a cat, right? I'll feed him, and I'll say, okay, go out and be a cat. And sometimes I feel that for God with me, and that's something that I've been working on for quite a bit of my life. I always thought God is enough for me. And I remember my spiritual director, Barb Wright in Estevan, saying to me, yeah, but are you enough for God? And it wasn't a question of what reality or fact was. It was a question of like, do I realize that I'm enough for God? Am I aware that I'm enough for God? And sometimes we go through life like that, where we see God's love for us, right? However you view God and however you experience love, we can see God's love for us, but we don't always feel, okay, I'm getting wandered off here. I'm like, we can feel love for God, right? But we don't always feel God's love for us. That's what I meant to say. We don't always experience that love that God has for us, that intense, unconditional, just go be you kind of love, where He doesn't always care. Like we always thought that we had to, please God some way, that there was somehow we please God. But when I look at this cat, there's no way this cat can please me other than just being who he is, and when he's gone, I miss him. And I feel a little bit, this is metaphoric for God and us and our relationship with God. And maybe I'm just rambling here, but I've always had this, I felt love for God, but I never always felt God's love for me. And it always translated into like, I love my wife. And I've told her this quite a lot, that I love my wife, but I've never always felt her love for me or understood her love for me. And I used to talk to her about this before, and so she already knows all this. This isn't anything new, that I can't feel her love, even though she shows it all the time and tells me, and she just loves being with me, and we're together all the time. And if we could do anything with anyone, we'd want to do it with each other. And we've always been kind of like that, even though we have our own interests. But I could never really experience and feel, like experience in the sense of the physical sense, like, yeah, you're here and we're together, or you do things for me and all this kind of stuff. And you said yes to marrying me and spending the rest of your life with me. But the actual feeling of that love, I've always found really difficult. And I've finally, I don't know if it's through this cat, and Barb Wright told me this cat's probably a gift for you, for however long it's meant to be. This cat's probably a gift for you. And I'm starting to experience God's love for me in a new way, a total new way. And I experienced it partly through this cat, and I'm starting to experience it, like feel it, like actually feel it within my being. My wife's love for me, and that she wants to spend the rest of her life with me. And sometimes that just floors me. And some of you might be thinking, well, duh, like that's why you got married, is it not? But really, when you think about it, do you always experience and feel that love for you? Are you enough for God? Are you enough for your partner? Are you enough for yourself, for your friends, for your kids? Like, can you experience that? You might love something or someone, but can you really feel their love for you? And I'm talking about a relationship that's healthy. I'm not talking about relationships where you're being abused or beating. Yeah, get out of those. Those are not good for you. But what I'm talking about is in healthy relationships. Can you feel that, like that love that God has for you? And I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm starting to realize that. And one of the things that I found that I grew up Catholic, and I still am Catholic in that sense. But I am becoming what the term Catholic really represents, which is universal. And I am beginning to see a lot of truths in a lot of other faiths and religions, and while not denouncing my own, it's like expanding what universal actually means, and what I believe that universal church probably is, and that God's been talking about. And we all have strands of the truth, and we bring that together. But I have found that I did humanize God a lot. Like I followed Jesus the Christian way. And like I said, though, I'm becoming more universal and seeing how much more powerful the message of Jesus Christ was and what he was trying to convey in the oneness with God. And I humanized God almost the same way as Disney, the Disney company, would humanize animals, and talking teapots and talking dogs and everything. And we tend to humanize everything. And when Jesus came to the earth, it was God incarnating himself in the form of Jesus Christ. He became human, right? He became human so that we would have someone to identify with, because we were having trouble at the time. Like if you look at the Jewish Judeo culture, that they were having trouble identifying probably who God actually was and the love that God had. And so Jesus was incarnated. It was God incarnated on earth. And I found, though, sometimes we tend to stick with the human God. And I had this I had this discussion with my mother-in-law, and she somewhat disagrees with me, but I found that the more I humanized God, the more I saw the God on the throne, right? The one single God in human form, like the old man on the throne with the big beard, and you've probably seen Disney characters like that, and sitting on a throne surrounded by angels, and I'm not saying that's not God. She says, well, how do you know that's not God? And that's true. I don't know. But at the same time, it stopped me from seeing the God within, because it created that separation. When I humanized God, I made him like a superhuman. And superhumans like the Pope or big superstars, or that are adored and fantasized over almost. But could you ever be that? Could you ever get to that? Right? Will you ever get to meet some of the superstars? Can you ever be the Pope? That kind of stuff. And some of you say, well, yeah, but for a lot of people, that's too far away, too distant. They're still trying to accept who they are right now, and still trying to love who they are and figure out who they are. And so trying to be this distant figure of a human God, all right, a superhuman is too far away. And so I always, and this is my experience. This is my experience. It might not be your experience, but I know there's a lot of people that relate to me, because I tell a story a lot about how I always saw God as a distant God and somewhere else that you had to get to. You had to attain your holiness or worthiness. You had to attain a ticket into heaven. And if you try to get, God was something you try to get to instead of part of who you are. And it was this humanizing God. So I kind of thought that the human image of God, like through Jesus, that human figure, is great to get you going and to get you started. But I think that Jesus tried to tell us more. And this is where some of the other religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, and sometimes they've got it a little bit more right than what we have, or a little bit more of the truth than what we realize. Not that we don't contain truth within us, but there's a oneness that Jesus talked about. And he says, Father, may they be one as you and I are one. And it's that oneness that we really seek in life. It's that oneness that when I was trying to get involved in so many things, I was in the music industry, and I was trying to be a superstar, and I wanted to be a superstar. I wanted to be a hero that everybody, like, you go on stage and everybody adored and clapped and shouted for and things like that. And so I fantasized every time I saw someone else like that in big concerts. And it was that oneness, that desire for oneness, even though I didn't really realize what oneness was. And it was my egoic outer self that was trying to complete that oneness. But there's no way that the egoic outer external self or any externals can complete that oneness with God. Only the inside, only God within can connect with God without and around. And I found myself, as I thought of a human image of God, it kept me at a distance. And it wasn't until I started seeing the DNA of God in all of creation, all of the universe, and everything around, that I began to slowly see the DNA of God within me, and realize that God is within. God is not just outside, but God is also within. Richard Rohr talks about like attracted to like. So God within, seeking God without. It's that connection. And that's who we are. And I go to a men's Bible study, and it's a Christian Bible study, and most of the guys are not Catholic. They go to other churches and stuff, and we start talking about the Bible and things, and I started talking about how I realized and my perception of there was always God first, and then there was creation. And Romans 1:20 talks about this, that the glory and the divinity of God wasn't revealed. It was invisible until it was revealed in all of creation. And it's like the DNA of God, the fingerprint of God is in everything. But there was God. Then there was the creation of earth, right, in the universe. And Richard Rohr calls that our very first Bible. But then it seems like then we came along later, much, much later. And was God just waiting for us to come around? No. God was visible in all of creation. All of creation lived God. And then we came along. And then the Bible came along, the inspired Word of God. And so it took me to look back and see and experience God in all of creation. God in the tree. God in the cat. God and the birds and the skies, and like the fingerprints of God, the DNA of God. And I stopped looking at God as being up and down, like up in heaven somewhere, some distant planet that I had to get to. And I started to see the horizontal. I started to look more horizontally, as in every time I looked around me, up and down, spherically, like being in an ocean, submerged in an ocean and being able to breathe. And I'm talking metaphorically. I might be just blabbering here, but when I start to see, when I was humanizing God, it was like I was limiting who God was. I was naming who God was. And Eckhart Tolle says as soon as you name God, you've limited God. And he doesn't even use the term God. He uses the term being, and not a being, but being itself. Because there's so many limiting metaphors and ideas and about the name God. So he turns to use the term being. And I think that's pretty cool, because it's how do you describe an undescribable God or being? And so that was that was a journey that I was on, and that was a journey that I had to break this. I go in between the humanizing and the not humanizing. Richard Rohr says God is like a circle where the center is everywhere and the circumference is nowhere. And it's like so expansive, so beyond fathoming, that it's like very abstract. And that's what the Buddhist view of God is like, very abstract. But there's something in that abstractness. When you're able to sit in silence and you're able to meditate, or when you're able to contemplate life, just sit and just be. When you're able to sit and just be, there's something about that abstractness that pulls you in, that just means something without any understanding. That abstractness, that vastness that's so beyond our understanding that we have to, if we really want to follow, if we really want to live, really want to be, we have to allow for mystery. We have to allow for mystery that we just don't understand things. As soon as we start to understand who God is and what God is, then we lose all the meaning and we lose all understanding. We just prove that we don't really know anything. We're trying to fit what is infinite into our finite minds. And the best that we can do is to sit and to be, and to allow that vastness to permeate our very being. Just like being immersed in the ocean, where you're almost oneness, surrounded by the ocean, by the waters. Be immersed in God, in the vastness of God. And don't limit God by humanizing God. That's great at the start, and I go back and forth, and we need to do that. We go back and forth. I go back and forth between this abstract God that's so vast that I can never understand, to this human figure of Jesus. I look at images of Jesus, and it just reminds me about God. And it just draws me in. And when I need that relationship with God, then I use Jesus, the image of Jesus Christ. This is what I use, because I come from a Judeo-Christian background, and I'm very comfortable with this. But if I was to limit my thinking and limit everything to one entity, one Jesus Christ, the figure of Jesus, then I really limit who God is, and I really get away from the message of love that Jesus really talks about, that oneness with God. And he even called God Father so that we could relate. But someone who's had a really bad upbringing and does not have a good father image, or has no father at all, has a really hard time with that relationship. So you need to find what connects you to God. Don't limit yourself by humanizing God and trying to make God into something that you are, and your version of God. God is beyond all, beyond understanding. God is mystical, yet totally understandable at the same time. When you are fully immersed into God, when you attain that awareness and you're fully immersed in God, then even that beyond understanding is understanding itself. So allow yourself to let go, and allow the experiences of life to bring you into that awareness of God. Don't allow experiences to limit you. Don't allow externals to limit you. Allow experiences to bring you into that closer awareness. And you do that by sitting in silence, sitting still, just being, allowing the darkness of the night or the light of the day to embrace you, because it's all created and it's all God. And I can't express enough how much your life will transform. That's what this whole thing's all about. That you become transformed. That you discover that true inner self. And this is not an easy journey. We sometimes get caught up in I got to figure this out. I got to figure out what's going on. And and somebody really upset me, and I got to figure out why that's happened. Well, no, those are all external things. When things come up in you, they're all triggers. When things come up that are negative in you, that you're upset, or maybe you feel hurt, or you feel whatever. When things come up in you, they come up for a reason. It's like a bubble that comes up in water. Once it gets to the surface, the air bubble pops. And that's what all these things are. When you get upset, or anything that's kind of a bit more on the negative side, it's like a healing. It's like God or your body trying to tell you that something from your past is coming up for healing. And when you allow yourself just to be aware of your emotion, or become aware of your thoughts, Like if you find yourself, you're angry, and you can see that anger, and you can see that you're angry, then that is that bubble popping. It's popping at the surface, and it's gone. Every time it comes up and you're aware of it, pop, and it's gone. Pretty soon, all those poppings will get less and less and less over time without you trying to figure it out. That's the whole thing I'm finding out here, is you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to get a pencil and work out and write down all your past and try to see and join and connect. And why am I feeling this? Is it something? Is it because I was living in an abused past? Was it because of this? What is it? Why am I so hurt? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling jealous? Why am I feeling empty? Why am I feeling resentful? Why am I feeling all? You don't have to why? Right? All you have to be is be. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge the awareness that you have. You're hurt. I feel hurt. I am hurt. Don't live in that hurt. Don't live in the, if things would only change. If I could only just get a better job, or if only I could get this, or if they would act differently, then things would be better. If only I had more money in my bank, things would be better. Those may be true on the external, but they're not what things that will transform you. Putting more money in your bank account is not going to transform you. It might make you happier for a while, but the same dysfunction that's going on at this present moment will still come about. If you're living in if money is always an issue to you, then having money is not going to take away any kind of issue. You might have money, but you'll still spend it, and you'll get back to where you are. It'll be something else that will trigger you. Something else will trigger the discontentment that's within you. And it's all manifested in different ways. Bad relationships. Not enough money in your bank account. And I'm not saying we don't have to help people who are impoverished in any way at all. We're called, when we're transformed, we're called to feed those who are hungry. We're called to help those who hurt, because we need to support each other. But we need to transform ourselves first. A friend of mine went to a major city, Edmonton, which is in the province of Alberta, and this was back in the 80s. And he kind of disappeared for the weekend, and we lived in a little rural area. And he disappeared for the weekend, and when we finally came back on the Sunday night, the Monday morning, whatever it was, he had gone to live in a garbage dumpster, a garbage can in the city, because he wanted to go and experience living on the street. And he thought he could go and minister love to people on the street. And what he found was the first night was easy. It was a breeze. It was a little cold and things like that. And he had to sleep inside this big metal box, with garbage in it. But he found on Saturday he was getting hungry. And by Saturday afternoon he was really hungry. And it started to be that survival mode kicked in. And all he could do was try and get something to eat. Try and beg for money to get something to eat, to drink. He was thirsty. And he discovered that he needed all the basics to be looked after first. Thanks, Dale McDonald, for that message and for that lesson that I've held with me. You need to have all the basics looked after first in your life. And once all the basics are looked after, then you can start looking after the inner you. Once all your basic needs, you're fed, you're watered, you're housed, you're clothed, or whatever it is, you're comfortable in your life, you don't need food anymore. Once those things are looked after, then you can look at the inner self. You can go and try to become a transformed person. Anyway, message for today. Allow yourself to be, and allow yourself to be transformed. and go through that process of transformation. And anyway, thank you so much for tuning in today. It was kind of a little different than the message I was thinking of putting out. It seems like I come here and sometimes I don't get to the microphone for a few days because I actually don't know what to say, and I'm not sure what message there is, but I usually find when I get here, there's something that comes out. And so I'm really thankful that you're listening in today, and I ask you if this message has touched you in any way, if it resonates, or even a part of it resonates, even if you don't agree with it all, right? Because this is my life, not your life. But even if you don't agree with it all, but something resonates with you, then would you tell somebody else about that? Would you tell them what resonated with you? You don't even have to quote where you got it from. You don't have to tell them who it was from or anything. I don't care about that kind of stuff. But would you tell them? Would you share that with somebody else? Because if it resonated with you, it would resonate with somebody else. And it's your transformation of your life that helps support others transform, because we need that support in each other. And the biggest support of all, of course, is our divine. So anyway, you can go to therealtruthaboutyou.com and you can download more episodes if you found this one resonated with you at all. And maybe there's some other episodes that resonate with you. This is episode 53, so that means there's 52 more other episodes and maybe more after this one that may resonate with you. And maybe you can share those with somebody else, download them. Do what Jerry Deeney does. He sends them to people if he thinks he needs them or whatever. And he's one of my biggest supporters, and I really appreciate that. Ray Bhutan takes his cell phone, and when he visits people, he say, "Hey, I gotta show you something," and he'll play the podcast. And if he's got time, they're about half an hour long, and he plays it. So anyway, thank you guys. Remember, if you've got any kind of real estate needs, go to Performance Realty in Southeast Saskatchewan. They work out of Carlisle and Kenosha Lake, and just amazing people. Give them a call. Ray Bhutan. And anyway, thanks for listening in. Remember, without a doubt, from me and Puddles, I want to tell you that you are loved. You are loved. You are loved. And you also absolutely rock.